Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Symphony Banda podcast. My name is Shirley Corman, and I'm a host of this podcast. In each episode, you will hear from seriously smart and interesting symphonians about their projects, successes, and of course, challenges. In today's episode, we are diving into the world of recruitment at Symphony Solutions. And who better to talk about it than Matea Kochovska, our amazing senior IT recruiter. Working with Matea is an absolute pleasure, trust me. She's a high-skilled and self-motivated recruiter with a deep knowledge of IT recruitment and sourcing strategies. Matea is known for her professionalism, empathy, and sense of humor. Her enthusiasm, organization, and ability to turn ideas into action make her a standout recruiter. Hello, Matea. I'm really glad to have you today on our podcast.
Hi, thank you for such a nice introduction.
Always welcome. Yeah, actually, I'm always preparing some kind of special introduction, but it's not from my side. I'm gathering some feedbacks from your colleagues. So it's everything that people are talking about you. So just in case you know.
That's great. I'm very glad to be here. Hopefully, we'll have an interesting discussion today.
But we will, because we have prepared a cool questions and we will open them today. So guys, grab your headphones and let's dive and hear all about the behind the scenes of recruitment. Trust me, you don't want to miss this episode. And today, Matea, I just wanted to start in an unusual way. And I know personally that there are many different myths and stereotypes about recruiters. And I really want to bust these myths with you. I would like to start our interesting conversation with a questioning about what are the top 3 stereotypes about recruiter you have heard about during all your career?
Sure. So I would definitely say that this is an interesting question. There are a lot of things that people think about recruitment and HR in general that just aren't like that, but I will try to think of some things.
I will also put the fingers here.
Yeah. So first one would be that people think recruitment is easy and they think anyone can be a recruiter. And this is definitely not true. Recruitment requires a lot of communication, stakeholder management, organization. So it's pretty, let's say, complicated. For example, my husband is an engineer and he's great, but every time that he needs to make a phone call, he freezes completely. And I often joke with him that he would make a terrible recruiter. Because we need to be people, the recruiter needs to be a people person. So we deal with all type of questions, unusual situations.
I bet also with all type of humans as well.
Yeah, you need to be very patient and really calm to be ready for any question that might come or any person that you might have to deal with. So definitely this is like the number one myth that I would like to bust.
Number one.
Work hard. Second thing would be most people think that recruiters are responsible for hiring. So whenever something goes wrong or there is some kind of stopper in the recruitment process, somebody's not happy with a candidate, they often think that we are the ones that make all of the decisions and are responsible for hiring. But this is not true. So the recruiter is the first person that candidates come into contact with. We definitely need to represent the company well, and we need to organize a lot of processes well. But at the end of the day, hiring managers are the one, and the client is the one that decides whether to take a person or not.
Yeah, it's important to mention actually, because I personally also know that it's very common thing that people think that if you are not hired, then recruiter is the one who is guilty about it.
Of course, but we always want to hire motivated candidates. So for us, it's very hard actually when we have to reject a candidate that we believe is a good fit. However, these processes that we have into place, the different interviews, tasks, and all the different stages are very important. So I would guess that, these are the ones that the candidate needs to pass well in order to become a symphonian.
I totally agree with you. And it's very important to mention because as I said, it's very common sense. Yes, I also know that many people are picturing recruiters as a person who is sitting around around many blocks of CVs. It's like, yes, no, yes, no, you know, like
Yeah, we're hiring you and that's it.
yes, I
But
like this
no,
one, I don't like this one.
yeah, so we actually try to advocate for people and we try to give people a chance because this is the maximum that we can do. But how well they do in this technical interview, most of all, matters. Also, the
People.
client, like who they believe they should have matter. So actually, hiring managers tend to believe that there is a perfect candidate and they can tell us, find me this candidate with like a million different responsibilities and that we'll just invent him. But we actually go to the market and we try to find the best people that are there for them. So this is also like something that's interesting to manage stakeholder expectations, definitely.
Yes, agree. It also a huge kudos to you guys because, as you have mentioned, you know, to be a recruiter is you have to have this special mindset of about communicating. You know, this finding this compromise, yes, and telling maybe good news as well as bad news. So it's also an art, I would say, and it's not for everyone. So big kudos to you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Now, you did mention three myths. So the third one is something that I've heard and read quite a lot is that usually recruiters look at the CV for about 6 to 8 seconds on average, and they can make a decision. So this can be true, really, in a case where a candidate is really not the right fit, they don't have any experience, or in their whole CV, you can't find the top technologies that you need for the job. But it's really not the case every time because we sometimes have a CV that's 4 or 5 pages. So of course we need to take a look at it for a couple of minutes, even if we're rejecting it. If we're proceeding, then it takes more time. Because when you decide that the candidate might be a good fit, you need to double check a lot of things. So you need to,
I
first of all,
also
make sure that
wanted to ask about it if you are doing some kind of more research if you are interested in this candidate.
of course. So the more you're interested in proceeding with a candidate, you really need to pay attention to some red flags. For example, has the candidate changed jobs very often? You need to look at their LinkedIn profile, GitHub profile to make sure that they match up because it can be a red flag when the CV says one thing, but LinkedIn profile says another thing. Also, if they have some recommendations on their LinkedIn page, like some people leaving some good comments, ex-colleagues, managers, and so on, this can also be a green flag for us. But yeah, it's good. So we need to do a lot of research before proceeding with
That's
candidates.
cool. That's cool. I was because I just came this question just came up in my head. If you're doing like some kind of more research after you're watching the CV and you answer this question, and I also like this interpretation about the red flags, because I know that in some businesses, they have not a website but document where they're listing like people with red flags that do not hire him or her because there were reasons, you know, but it's like for some business areas, and that's very interesting, and it does a great impact, yeah, and saves your time, yeah, to know.
Yeah, we actually have this in the ERP system, so we can actually put a comment that says candidate was definitely not a fit, blacklisted. They either didn't show up on an interview too many times or rejected our offer and was very rude about it. So we do have this because we have so many roles and hundreds, thousands of
That's cool.
different
I didn't
candidates.
know about it. That's cool.
Yeah, you cannot remember all of them. It's like impossible
Yeah.
to remember every single case, and yeah, this helps a lot.
That's cool. Thank you, Matea, for sharing. It was very cool, insightful. Like I learned some things I did not know and did not expect it to come up. I have another tricky question that only you as recruiter can share with us today. What makes a good recruiter stand out from a bad one? What would you put on the list?
Ooh, that's interesting. So definitely a more experienced recruiter would the more experienced you are, the more roles you can handle at a certain time, the faster you can source and the better quality candidates you can bring. And I guess this is the true measure of a good recruiter. So we have quite a good track record in the team of bringing candidates very fast. But also we do a lot. So we do offer negotiation. Symphony hires on so many different markets that the more you work, the more experienced you are, you can really know what is the difference between all of these markets. Otherwise, it's harder to do your job. And we have so many different position technologies. There is something called Drupal developer or site-based engineer.
Yeah, it's a
And
variety of them.
it's impossible to know what all of these do. So you really need to do your research whenever you start a role. Of course, the more experience you have, the more technologies, programming languages, frameworks you will come into touch with. So there are some things that you would know if you're looking for a Java developer with some specific framework. But of course, so many different roles come up that you need to do your research very well as well. So this can be a good measure for a recruiter.
Cool. And also another question just popped up in my head. There is, okay, maybe it's in very old school method, but on the interviews for some roles, usually for marketing or for sales, like people ask, okay, sell me this pen. Is there some kind of also this kind of practical question on the interview for recruiters to measure either it is a good recruiter or not very qualified yet?
I guess it would be some situational questions. So actually sales is a big part of recruitment because you need to manage the expectations of the candidate, try to sell the company as best as you can to the candidate, but also sell the candidates to the hiring managers with their best qualities. Especially if you believe in this candidate, you sometimes need to, of course, highlight their best qualities for them to be given a fair chance. But some situational questions, like for example, to establish motivation and determination, how soon a recruiter would give up or how much they would try and find the solution. This could be a good one. And also just difficult situations that we come into play with. Sometimes it's impossible, really. The candidate is frustrated. The hiring manager has dropped off the position or something. So how a recruiter reacts in these situations can tell you a lot about whether he will be a good fit for the team or not.
Yeah, I see what you mean, actually, and this also your answer bring us to my next question because of course, it's cool, many exciting things happening, yes, which we will talk about a little bit later. But we all have some challenges in tough times, and I was wondering what have been the toughest challenges for the recruitment team in the past few years, yes, and in such a unstable situation in the world, yes, the COVID, the war in Ukraine, as our big part of Symphonians is located from Ukraine, it has also affected the general situation in world. And how did recruitment team overcome these challenges?
So I think overcome is a little bit strong because we still haven't, this is an ongoing situation. So we never know how fast everything will happen. You mentioned COVID and the world really, we thought that COVID would be it. That's it. People are getting fired. The market will never recover. But actually the market recovered very quickly and then the recession hit. So now we're dealing with for example, huge layoffs in companies. And people think that this is a good thing for recruitment because we're getting more CVs, but it's really not the case. I read somewhere that the average time to hire has remained the same. So even though we're getting 3 times as many applicants, we're not faster at hiring these people because you have to go through sometimes hundreds of CVs for one role. And this is, most of them cannot be relevant or they don't pan out. So really the amount of work and time it requires to get all of these candidates interviewed, screened, and hired remains the same. However, the situation becomes dynamic, remains dynamic, and this is one of the true, let's say, difficulties of recruitment. You never know what the day is gonna be like, what the position is gonna throw at you, because there's so many uncertainties. You can have one day a candidate at offer, and you're thinking, okay, we're offering him, the position is closed, then the next day he can reject, and suddenly you have no candidate, so you need to focus a lot. Really, you need to learn how to deal with the situations. You can't take these things so personally, because sometimes you need a little bit of luck to get the position closed, and you need the market to be at a situation that is convenient, I guess. What are some of the other challenges? So I guess I'm not sure if our listeners know if they've been paying attention to town halls, but recruitment merged with ops. And I wouldn't say that this is a challenge. I think that this is a great thing.
But it's a
And
change, and the change is always a challenge. It's
it was a change,
as well as
but this was such a good opportunity for us all to grow in ops and recruitment, because we got to know what the other team does. And there was a huge, let's say, for me, an increase in the knowledge and how I understand the business, and having a more holistic approach to the whole recruitment space. So I'm definitely very grateful that the two teams merged. Hannah has been amazing to get all of us to get to know each other and really perform like one team. And in a very short time, we have achieved this. So this makes me happy. But yeah, of course, challenges are there in recruitment. So the market is currently,
yeah, so
yeah.
kudos to you guys. It's very cool, and kudos to Hannah for leading your big team now. Yes, I totally agree that the merging of two teams, it's always brightening horizons. So
Yeah, and also we have recently took over a huge part of onboarding, which was interesting because this is something that I've been meaning to try. I've been wanting, as a senior recruiter, to kind of dip my feet into onboarding and this HR aspect. So this has also been a huge learning opportunity. Yeah, I guess this is it. But the biggest challenge, because you did say challenge, and I would say the biggest negative challenge always for me would be when you have to reject a candidate that you really like. He or she can be really motivated, really
yeah,
want to
that's
join the
why
team.
I told you, being a recruiter, it's an art, an art of
Yes,
communication.
it is. So I always want to fight for my candidates and of course get them hired, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And just giving them the bad news and them reacting like, okay, this is disappointing, but anyway, in the future, I would love to stay in touch, and I would be open to your company. This is always good to hear as a recruiter, that even though sometimes things don't work out, people are willing to come back to our company and be part of more of the processes.
That's cool. That's very cool. And based on this, I'm now wondering that you as a recruiter, yeah, you mentioned that you are always telling to your candidates that you would like to stay in touch, maybe for some future opportunities. And were there situation when you really came back to your candidates, say, no, now everything works. Now it's the time, and you are open, and there was a perfect match. Was there a scenario?
Actually, there was this candidate for a QA role that was super interested. He didn't pass on this first, not by his fault because the role got dropped off. Second time he didn't pass because the client didn't like him. And after 2 times, I was like, okay, I know that you're super motivated and you would really like to work with us, but it's just not working out. Then a third time, another position opens and he was actually hired by us. And when I was giving him the news that he received an offer, I was so happy for him. He was really, really happy to be able to join the team. And I believe he's still with us. He's still a Symphonian.
That's cool. That's another great example of how you do not have to give up on the first tough
Yeah.
time or failure. That's another example. Everywhere is written about it, the books, the famous people are telling about it, but that's another great example to underline this. That's cool. I'm very
Yeah, and especially like after so much work, you open Teams and you see that your candidate, the one that you hired, is active and he's finally green and everything is perfect. So this is a huge boost for recruitment because we deal with so many different situations every day. One day can be really good, another day can be really bad. So this type of small things can really keep our motivation up and keep us going.
That's cool. And now I also want to know more about it, about your successes. Yes, what are your successes of your team? Yes, in Symphony that make you think like, wow, did we really do it? Like something, that wakes up this kind of emotion in you, in your team, of your colleagues.
Yeah, so results are very important in recruitment. Of course, we can put a lot of work in, but sometimes luck isn't on our side and something can happen to a position. This is always, let's say, the difficult part. But when the numbers come in and when you see that as a team you have achieved something special, you have closed positions very fast. I think that actually Hannah was telling something about average time that we provide candidates is just a couple of days. So you open a completely new position and in 2 or 3 days you have already your first candidates there. I think that this is a huge boost for the team, and it just shows that we're pretty, good and
You're professionals.
pretty
Let's be honest.
solid professional. Yeah. A lot of work goes behind the scenes, so it's nice to see the results when they pan out. Also, we did have recently, we created our recruitment page, which we're launching to the whole company at the end of this month. And I'm really proud of it because it's like a centralized base of all of the recruitment knowledge, all of our processes, all of the, let's say, knowledge sharings that we've done, the, let's say, how-to guides. So I'm very happy that, let's say, the whole company can come to this recruitment space and read a little bit more about us. They can learn about how complicated it is actually to get a candidate hired and what we do.
Yeah, that's why actually we make this, like the idea of this podcast is to going behind the scenes because, of the project, of the department, sometimes the vision of the people does not match the reality, Somehow
Yeah.
people think like it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, and then that there is much more to do, like, and it's important for us to know how the things works in different department of Symphony, which is very cool. And we actually did mention a lot of the things that people might not know. And now for sum up, I bet you definitely have some funny, I want to hear the funniest story in your recruitment career.
Okay, funniest story. Actually, I did have a funny story. I had this candidate and he was supposed to join a call. He didn't join it. And of course, you want to follow up with them, ask them what happened. So I'm asking, hey, you didn't join the call. And he was like, sorry, I was taking a nap. And I was like, you were taking a nap. It was the middle of the day. It was the middle of the working day. Like it wasn't even like nap time or after lunch or something. So for me, this was like very funny, but also very unfortunate because he didn't join the call.
But
However,
you can put a plus on the honesty side,
yes.
Honest.
However, I hadn't ever come across this type of situations because usually they would give some kind of legitimate reason, why they don't join. I was at the hospital, something urgent came up with a family matter, but this was just, let's say, a unique situation in my career.
I bet you were like confused about it. You did not
Very.
expect this to come.
Very, yeah. Also, last week there was another funny situation for me. I had this candidate that applied for the role. So of course, I reach out to him and I tell him I would love to have a call with you, to share some more information about this role. And he says, can you send me a link to this role? Because I don't remember applying. So of course, I sent him a link. He looks at the position and he says, no, thanks. I'm not interested in this.
You're not
And I'm
proposing anymore.
yeah, so you applied for the position, I'm just trying to do my job. And he was like, you know what, I'm not interested. So that was super funny for me.
Oh, that's cool, the people just clicking. Sometimes
Yeah.
having an app, why not prioritizing? Maybe the second candidate also was after an app. He was a little bit confused and just clicking applying. Never know.
Yeah, could be.
But cool. Thank you for sharing, Matea. In general, it was very insightful, I would say. Now we will see the recruitment processes and work from a very different perspective, thanks to you, thanks to all information you have shared with us. And yeah, I hope you also enjoyed it. And now our listeners will know more. And I hope they also enjoyed this great, interesting podcast, an episode of Banda podcast. Matea,
Absolutely.
thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing. And I was really glad to have you today with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.